Hello, welcome to our Fit to Flaunt, seminar. This is week 8, and this is Jennifer Draper, who is going, to talk to you about conscious communication. I'm not quite sure when you will be watching this video, but we are filming it right in the middle of coronavirus, a lot of the protests around race, a lot of conversation around privilege and what it means. Should we wear a mask? Should we not wear a mask? I mean, there is just like political conversation going off the charts. Somebody else is coming in. Welcome. There's all this conversation going off the charts. And whether the conversation is on social media or it's face-to-face or in a Zoom room, it's really, really important to be conscious around your communication and to be clear around your communication so you can say what you mean and so the other person is actually hearing what you mean as well. I'm going to read a tiny section of my book that kind of talks about how this spiral devolves. Because I think if we understand a little bit some of the factors that lead into this devolution, then we can figure out how to have an evolution. And with Jennifer's incredible wisdom, we can help ourselves, we can help our friends, families, coworkers, everybody hopefully have an accurate, real, good, healthy conversation. So my book is Flaunt, Drop Your Cover and Reveal Your Smart, Sexy Spiritual Self. And the section that I'm going to read is about your naked self-worth. And naked self-worth is your ability to value yourself for who you are, not for what you do. And it says that right here. Naked self-worth is the ability to show and embrace all facets of who you are, emotional, intellectual, and physical, without cover, without seeking to please or conform, and to value yourself as you are. Have you noticed that it's one thing to learn something provocative and exciting, but it's another thing altogether to apply that enticing new material to your own life? That's how it worked for me when I began the process of stripping out of my judgments, inhibitions, and beliefs that I had to be the picture-perfect representation of what I thought I was supposed to be. I was tired of overfunctioning and being underappreciated, but I couldn't figure out how to put myself out there, how to communicate, how to take care of the multitude of things that legitimately needed taking care of. No matter how many books I read, seminars I attended, or experts I talked with, I had no idea how to communicate my needs, which led to imposter syndrome. Letting one more in, which led to more toxic self-judgment, more covering. Determined not to fail, I kept layering it on, adding more and more to my already crazy schedule in hopes that the next thing would be the thing that would ensure success, create harmony, and bring peace and calm to my family, my heart, my home, and my communications. So that is what Jennifer is here to kind of help us do. Instead of getting into that frustration cycle of, I know this isn't what I want and I can't get out of it, she is going to help us. So with that long-winded introduction, welcome, Jennifer. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much for having me. Lora, before we go on, some of the people that are listening to this may not know much about you. So I just want to read a little bit. Lora is a life choreographer, and that's her version of life coaching. And it is designed to inspire women to get in touch with who they are inside, exclusive of their roles, their labels, or society's judgments about what makes women worthy. She says that every woman is smart, sexy, and powerfully spiritual in her own right. And she shows women how to recognize, reveal, and embrace that power, ultimately re-choreographing their lives in a way that is meaningful for them. I want to read a paragraph from one of your Facebook posts that I love this post. It was your When We Flaunt post. And she says, when we flaunt, we take the lead in the dance of life. We live and express fully, relishing in the uninhibited joy of knowing that who we are right now is more than enough. All souls are beautiful, brilliant, and unique gems, which must have all of their unique facets exposed in order to sparkle most brilliantly. When we flaunt and reveal ourselves fully, we sparkle in our own unique glory. I loved that. That was so wonderful.
Thank you so much. I'm glad that spoke to you.
Absolutely amazing. We were going to talk tonight about conscious communication.
Yes.
It is impossible to be consciously communicating when we can't be true to ourselves. And we can't be true to ourselves when we don't know who we are. And so it's critical to have people like you in the world helping people uncover themselves, literally uncover themselves. I just think your whole philosophy is so powerful and so energizing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing your gift.
You're welcome. And thank you for sharing yours.
So let's talk a little bit about conscious communication, right? What does that look like, and how does that work? I teach, it's really training. It's not coaching. I teach a simple skill for knowing how to best communicate with somebody when you first meet them and when your relationship goes into crisis. In between those times, we tend to build a relationship language. Have you ever had a moment of an inside story where somebody's finishing your sentence, or you have an inside joke, right? That's part of that relationship language. And when we've known somebody for a period of time, that relationship language starts to build up based on shared experiences. Unfortunately, in times of crisis, our trust gets broken a little bit. And we stop relying on that relationship language that we've developed. So it's important then to rely on what we know of their values so that we can communicate most effectively with them.
That makes sense.
We call our system a personality science-based system. But what it really is a values-based system. In any given time, people will be prioritizing a set of values. So we say there's 4 basic personality types, and the reality is that everybody has all 4. So one of the things I love about this system is that it's very unifying, because nobody has a blank. Nobody has nothing of one kind. Everybody has all 4 personality types. Each personality type is based on 12 values. And we're not talking about big values like God, the universe, and spirit. We're talking about small, little v values, like, do you prioritize fun or do you prioritize systems? Do you prioritize relationships or knowledge? Each set of values we know translates to a way of communicating that is most effective for each person. And that's what I teach. What are those 4 personalities? And we're going to go into that. And then how do you most effectively communicate with them? And then how do you recognize them? How do you know when you need to be talking to that particular personality type, right? Now, if you're doing this when you're first meeting somebody, it's got to be simple. It's got to be simple, because when you first meet somebody, you don't want to take this big long pause while you go, I wonder what you are. Let me think about that. You don't have time. No. Nobody's standing around waiting for you to do that, right? 4 basic personality types, okay? One of the ways I tell people to think about this, did you ever watch the movie or read the book, Oh my gosh, it just went right out of my head.
Welcome to my world lately.
It's crazy. I'm like doing biohacking, trying to get my brain back. It's absolutely, there's so much stress and so many things going on in the world today that it just interrupts everything. Like it's just this constant spiking interjection that you have to then
Mm-hmm.
and let it go.
Yeah.
And the minute I did that, it popped into my head. Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
Did you ever guess?
Yes, I read it and saw the movie. And Jeff and Holly, feel free to unmute yourselves and pop in if you've got comments too.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes. Come join us.
Yeah.
So in the Da Vinci Code, the author created this thing called the cryptex. Do you remember that? It's a safe that's a cylinder, right?
Yep.
What an amazing mind to create that out of whole, like that's completely his creation. Isn't that amazing? The cryptex is a safe, and it's a cylinder, and inside the cylinder is a vial of vinegar, and wrapped around that vial of vinegar was a piece of papyrus. And in the Da Vinci Code, written on that papyrus was the secret to the Holy Grail. Now, everybody we walk up to has a cryptex hanging over their shoulder. And for the minute we start walking up to them, we're dialing in a code. Click, 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 click. If we dial in the correct code, we can open that cryptex and get the secret to the Holy Grail, which for us is connection. If we click, 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 dial in the wrong code and we try to open it, that vial of vinegar cracks, it dissolves the papyrus, and we lose the ability to connect. Now, in normal everyday interactions where you're just walking up to somebody at a networking event or at the park or the grocery store, it may not be so critical. Do I connect with that person or not? Although I will say that that disconnection, when we break that connection, that disconnection has profound impacts, right?
Yeah.
So I want to tell you a story about my friend Robert and his son. His son was 6 years old when he said to his dad, "Daddy, why are you a liar?" Can you imagine the heartbreak? The reality is, Dad would say, "Hey, we're going to leave in 20 minutes." And his son, he's a blueprint personality, and time means a very specific thing to a blueprint personality. His son would hear 20 minutes and he would be like, "Okay, I'm going to be down at the door ready to go in 15 minutes, so I'm not the one holding us up." And when his dad said 20 minutes, high action personality, what he really meant was sometime in the next hour, we're probably going to be ready to walk out the door. And you know, you've seen culture clashes before, right? So this is a very personal culture clash, right? "Daddy, why are you a liar?" I met Robert Bloom at training, and the first day of training, he got kind of quieter as the day went on. And I was like, "Dude, what's going on?" And he was like, "I have been parenting my son all wrong. I've been parenting my son all wrong." He said, "I have to go back and I have to fix this." So Robert goes back to Sweden. He's from Sweden. He goes back to Sweden and he starts parenting his child like a blueprint. He gives him rules. He has, these are the chores you're going to be responsible for. Like he laid out the expectations. He helped his son plan things. About 3.5 years after that, I bumped into Robert at a conference. And I was like, "Robert, how are things going?" He's like, "Hold on." And he digs in his briefcase and he pulls out this handwritten card and he hands it to me and he's like, "My son stuck this in my suitcase." I'm like, "Levi?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." I open the card and at the very top of the card it says, "Daddy, I love you." And he says to me, "That's the first time my son has ever said that to me." Now, if you think conscious communication is not important, I want you to think about that 6-year-old son who never said, I love you to his dad until his dad started treating him the way he needed to be treated. Conscious communication is so important. It is so important, right? We have to be the fullest expression of who we are. And it doesn't do us any good to be that if we can't connect with the people around us, right? So, conscious communication. Got any questions?
I just want to find out how I can start knowing that, because it makes sense. And especially now with things being so charged, it would sure be nice to be able to be like, all right, I know I can see this, and I don't want to break that vinegar. I want to create connection.
So powerful, right? So so we've got some time tonight. What I really wanted to do was kind of do a brief, I can't teach everything in an hour, right? It's a week's worth of classes for the whole kit and caboodle, right?
Right.
But let's start getting into a little bit of meat on that. So we're going to start with the 4 personality types. The very first personality type is the blueprint, right? So we have an acronym, it's BANK. That'll help you remember it, BANK. Blueprint, action, nurturing, knowledge.
Okay.
Blueprint, action, nurturing, knowledge. Blueprints. We use the color blue to represent the blueprints because when we first meet a blueprint, they can come across a little cool. They can be a little cool. And so a lot of people feel like they might be a little standoffish. They might be, blueprints don't like risk. And every new person that comes into their life is a risk until they know you better. And the minute they know you better, they invite you in and they warm up. Okay? Have you ever heard the concept, think outside the box?
Yeah.
Yeah, blueprints don't do that.
I know some of them.
Blueprints are like, so if you say to a blueprint, hey, finish this sentence, rules are made to be
broken.
A blueprint would say followed. So I now know you're not a blueprint. Okay. Blueprints would say rules are made to be followed. So if you know somebody who has to follow the rules, like they have to, they're probably a blueprint, right?
Yep.
So you can probably think of some people in your life who's a blueprint. We say blueprints are inside the box. They're inside the box. They like to be inside the box. The rule followers, the way you want to greet a blueprint is what is the socially acceptable norm for that society, right? And I say it that way because the greeting in our country is different than the greetings in Europe, right? Here, it's a handshake, appropriate firmness, not too much, not too little, with an appropriate amount of eye contact, not too much, not too little, right?
Yeah.
So when you meet a blueprint, when you're meeting a blueprint for the first time, you want to meet them with a handshake. Now later on, we're going to talk about nurturers, and the greeting for a nurturer is a hug. Nurturers, I'm looking at you. Please stop hugging everybody. A blueprint does not want to be hugged when they first meet you. They don't. They don't want it. They want a handshake. Give that to them. Let that be your gift to them. They will love you for it. Okay. When you're communicating with a blueprint, especially when you first know them, right? We're not talking about as you develop your relationship language. We're talking about when you first meet them or when the relationship goes into crisis. When you're communicating with a blueprint, you want to stay calm. You want to speak firmly with a level of authority without being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your relationship is in crisis, it can be very difficult to do this because our emotions are running high too, right?
Yep.
You want to be calm but firm with your voice. Can you see how that might help with some of your blueprint friends? Yeah. Always be on time, and in fact, be a little early, right? Think about anytime you're with you're thinking about, I'm going to be late to see that blueprint. Think about Levi and his dad, Robert. And remember how important it is to be on time or early. Be organized. You need to be organized around a blueprint when you first meet them. If your purse is a mess or your things are flying everywhere, the blueprint's going to be like, I don't know if I can trust you.
Right.
Yes, exactly right. Okay. All right. So blueprints, inside the box, greeting is a handshake, a little cool when you meet them. They don't like risk, and they're rule followers. Okay, let's move to the actions. The color we use for actions is red. Actions are exciting people. They are a lot of fun. We say that the action personality explodes the box. Blueprints are inside the box. Actions explode the box, right? See how I shift from a calm, right? And a little bit more energy. When you're using conscious communication, it's not just about the words you say and how you say them. It's your body language. It's the clothes you wear. It's the energy you put out, right? If you're putting out the right kind of energy, you're going to feel warm and welcoming to everybody, even if your energy is a little spiked for the action person, a little calmer for the blueprint person. Conscious communication, right? Okay, actions explode the box. And actions are valuing things like fun, competition, they like to win, they like the good things in life. Like these are their things they prioritize. Like a blueprint likes the good things in life, but they're not necessarily going to prioritize them, and certainly not over their budget. The action is going to prioritize the good things in life, okay? So when you're talking with an action personality and you're meeting them for the same time, if you stick your hand out and you give proper, right, your head automatically started shaking. They want a little more energy. This is going to bore them. They're going to get bored really quickly. They want a little bit more energy, a little bit more excitement. So the greeting you want to give them is a high five, woo! Right? Maybe not literally, but when you walk up to them, like a blueprint, you want to be very controlled body language and calm. When you're meeting with an action, lean in with your hand, get a smile on your face, have some energy and excitement about you. They will like that. They will understand it. Communicating with them, be enthusiastic. Find out what they're excited about and talk about that, right? What did you do this weekend? Tell me all about it, right? And you'll have a phenomenal conversation because they're almost always up to something exciting. Blueprints want small talk, but they want appropriate small talk. What do you think of the weather? What did you do this weekend? Normal small talk. Actions don't want small talk. They want to get right to the meat of the conversation. What's the point? This is a challenge when you're in a small talk environment, right? Because the norm for being in a cocktail party or at a dinner or a present, right?
Right.
You have to have a plan for, I know I'm in front of an action personality. I don't want to do small talk. What am I going to do? Compliment them and ask them what's the most fun thing they've done in the last week. Simple. Compliment them, ask them what's the most fun thing they've done in the last week. They will love that. They will love that.
I love just having the questions in your pocket because that takes the stress out. When somebody's coming at you like, woo, then you can just be like, oh, I got this.
Yes. That's what I love about this system is that it takes the stress out of meeting people because you know what to talk about. You know how to express yourself. You know what's the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. know when to be silly, and never lose your cool, right? Never lose your cool. They value that. All right, so blueprints inside the box, handshake, rule followers, actions, explode the box, high five, never met a rule they couldn't ignore, energetic. All right, any questions about those? Those were our first two.
Makes perfect sense so far.
Awesome. Nurturers. Nurturers. We say that nurturers recycle the box, right? They're the ones that take that cardboard box and they make sure that it's packaged, and then they put it in the recycling bin, and then they do all the things with the recycling box. The number one thing that nurturers prioritize is relationship. Blueprints are rule followers, actions are not. They're about fun, competition, they like to win. Nurture is about relationships. It's the most important thing in their life. Now, if you're a nurturer, I want you to imagine this. Somebody comes up to you and they said, hey, we've been friends for about 3 months now, and I just need you to know I need access to your network so that I can talk to them about my product. A bunch of you just went and started edging away from the computer like, you just lost me. In fact, you not only lost me, I'm never talking to you again. Okay? If you didn't have that reaction, you're probably not a total nurturer. And that's okay. One of the things that we sometimes use personality types for is to separate. That's not the point. That's if you try to use this system to separate people, that's not the point. The point here is everybody is all for, and you can connect with anybody if you just stop to figure out where they are and meet them there. That's all it takes. Okay, nurturers recycle the box, prioritize relationships. We've already talked about their greeting. It's a hug. And nurturers are going to stop hugging everybody because that's not what everybody wants as a greeting. And for those of you that aren't nurturers, there's no patting and hugging. Patting is what we do to dogs. We don't do that to humans. Okay, if you need to do something to a nurturer to give them a clue that you're ready to let go of the hug because they can hold it a little too long sometimes, give them a little extra squeeze and they'll probably let go. Or a little rub. Now, some of you are looking at the screen, and you're looking at me on the screen, and you're going, Jen, I can't do it. I can't give a total stranger a hug. I can't do it. So if somebody starts coming at you like this to give you a hug, I want you to put your hand up, grab their hand, bring it down, and then take your other hand and give them a hand hug. 2 hands.
Yep.
That will substitute. That'll work. They'll still feel seen and appreciated. Okay. Nurturers need to know that you are involved in some kind of non-profit work. I know it's a little bit of an oddball thing, but the number one thing because they're involved in something somewhere somehow. And the minute they know that you're involved in some kind of charitable nonprofit work, they know that you're somewhat like them. One of the hardest things about talking to a nurturer is that you got to do the small talk, and you have to be a little intimate with the small talk. They need you to bare your soul just a little bit to them. Now, 2 personality types are not comfortable with baring their soul to a person that they've just met, right? So, guide the conversation towards a celebration. Talk about something good that happened in the last week that touched your heart. Bearing your soul, we always think that bearing our soul means we have to give a piece of our pain. You don't. You don't have to give a piece of your pain. Give a piece of your celebration. What's something that touched your heart with joy? They will love that. They will love that. If you're sitting down with somebody and you're like, do I have something on my face? Why is she staring at me? Probably a nurturer. Nurturers will tend to hold eye contact just a little too long. So when you're talking to them, be okay with being just a little too close to them for normal, from what you would consider normal social distancing. Be a little, okay, maybe not in this current environment, but
Right.
in general, get a little close to them and then maintain slightly uncomfortable eye contact. Eyes are the windows to the soul. That's our social construct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And nurturers can really feel that. Okay. Any questions about nurturers?
I had one and then I just lost it. It'll come back. That was so funny.
Can you think of one?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting, right? The system is set up in a simple enough way that the minute you hear them described, you're like, oh, I know exactly who that is, right?
I like how you were saying too, we all have components of all the systems, because when I had younger kids and I was the PTA mom and the room mom, I was 100% in my nurturer. And now that my kids are in their 20s, I'm back to action personality. So I love that.
And some women will change, like in the morning, they're at home with their family and they're a high nurturer. And then they go to work and maybe they're a blueprint or maybe they're an action. And then they come home and they go back to nurturing.
Yeah.
I have a really good friend who started in college, Sonia. She started in college. She was very action when she was younger. Got married, adopted 2 high needs children, very nurturing. The children have moved out of the house. She's become blueprint. So the environment we're in, who we're around, the stage of life we're in, all of these things can have an impact on what personality, what values, remember these are values, what values are we prioritizing at this point in our life? Right. Blueprints inside the box, actions explode the box, nurturers recycle the box, and they hug.
Yeah.
The color we use for nurturers, by the way, is yellow. It's a warm yellow because nurturers have a very warm personality, right? The emblem we use for them is a sunflower. This is a very bright, happy, cheerful flower, right?
Right.
That's, yeah. So that's kind of some of the ways we can remember nurture. The last personality, the 4th one, is knowledge. Knowledge personalities place a very heavy emphasis on knowledge. The color we give them is green. You remember in the Matrix, they have those green on green screens with it, right?
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheets are green. Data analysis, people who love that, probably high knowledge. High knowledge personalities don't like to be touched, especially not by people they don't know. Once you get to know them, they're more okay with them. For the most part, they'll be okay with the socially normal greeting, but a lot of times what you'll get is the hand will go out and the foot will go back, right?
I've seen
I'm
that.
leaning away from you because I don't want you to get any closer, and I'm only touching you that far because that's what I'm supposed to do, right? So pay attention to the body language when that hand comes out for that handshake. Knowledge has placed a heavy emphasis on self-mastery. When a relationship starts to go into crisis, one of the first things we tend to lose is our self-mastery, right? Our emotions start running really high. It's not a good place, right?
Right.
If the person you're in crisis with is a knowledge, Give them the grace and space to process. They need processing time. And it's really easy to do. All you do is say, we're really getting heated right now. I just need a moment to process some of this. Do you mind if we take a half an hour break and then come back to talk about this? Now, the break is not really for you. You might be able to go on and on the break, but you don't want to say that to them, right? That's not honoring who they are. Give them that grace and that space. It's a wonderful gift for them, and they will greatly appreciate that. My husband is very high knowledge. If I need a decision really quickly, I will still give him 5 minutes. I'll be like, here's the information I have. Here's the decision that has to be made. I hate to do this to you, but I need a decision quickly. Can you take 5 minutes and think about it and then let me know? Because you almost always have 5 minutes to give.
Right.
Right? Again, it allows them the time and the space to process. They just need that time and space to process. Knowledges do not like to be wrong. So when you're communicating with them, you never want to say, that's stupid, or you're so wrong. Your knowledge personality will be like, and we're done. I'm out the door and I'm never talking to you again. That's their breaking point. On the other hand, knowledges will absolutely change their mind.
Oh.
It seems like a contradiction, but here's how you do it. They're saying something, I'm thinking, I know that's not true. I'm not going to confront them in the heat of the moment. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to go find a white paper, a document, a something that I think contradicts that fact. I'm going to send it to them in an email. Why in an email? Because it gives them time to process. Yes, exactly. Time to process. And you say, we were talking about this earlier, and I saw this, and I want to know what you think about it. I didn't say, what do you feel about it? How does this make you feel? No, because the knowledge isn't interested in that. They're interested in what people think, right? So when you ask them, they'll read the document and they may totally change their mind. Be prepared for them to come back and point out to you all of the fallacies in the document. Make sure your source is good, because they'll find all those little tweaks and faults and problems that are in that document. That's the voice of experience, by the way. Don't argue with them. They will either, the minute you start arguing, they lock in. And they can't shift, right? So the minute you start arguing with them, they come up with all the reasons why they're right, and they will just keep arguing until you quit.
Mm-hmm.
And there you are, right? That was pointless, right? Right. So the best thing is to not get into an argument with it. Let it go. Send them the email with the data and ask them what they think. And they'll reply in an email. So you won't stop having arguments about it. You can have a conversation through email. Now, for most of us, we're like, email is the slowest way to have a conversation.
But that's okay.
How much do you value that relationship? How important is it to be consciously communicating with that person, right? If it's not that important, then let it go. Why would you have gotten in the argument with them in the first place, right?
Right.
Exactly. Communication is not about us.
Mm-mm.
It's not about us. The point of communication is to transfer our feelings, our emotions, who we are, our knowledge, our experience. It's to transfer something that we think is important to the other person. In order for that transfer to happen, they have to hear it. If you're not speaking in their language, blueprint, action, nurturing, knowledge, they're going to hear Charlie Brown's teacher, wah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And they're not going to hear what you're saying. Ever heard the saying, your actions are speaking so loud, I can't hear what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. If your communication style is screaming, I don't see you, I don't hear you, I don't acknowledge you because I'm talking my way.
Doesn't matter.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 4 personality types and effective ways to communicate with them. Now, we're in Zoom land these days, right? So how do you recognize people? How do you know what their personality type is based on what you see in this little box, right? We don't have a lot to go off of right now. We're not meeting generally in person. So you don't see people's cars. You don't like, what you have is that little box and this communication, right?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about the things you see. A blueprint in general is going to have professional put together attire. The blues will match. It's very put together. The environment that they're in will be very put together. If you see a mess in the background, probably not a blueprint. Okay? An action is going to have a little bit of flash about them. And the flash can be subtle, right? It can be a name brand. It can be lots of name brands. It can be a feather boa. It can be, yes, right? So the flash isn't necessarily high flash, but it is flash. And you know it when you see it. You just know, you're like, oh, I get it, right? I get it. A nurturer is going to have comfortable things around them, okay? A blueprint in general is going to have framed art that makes sense. A nurturer might have tactile art and art that might not make sense, right?
Yeah.
And plants. Nurturers will tend to have plants around them. I will tell you that my plants are fake because I kill them.
Me
I
too.
do have a garden. We have a garden, but my husband takes care of that. So
Got it.
I love my plants, but I don't want to kill them. I don't like dead things. It upsets me.
Right.
Knowledge personalities don't care. Think about NASA engineers back in the day when they wore the black tie with the short sleeve white shirt and the pocket protector, right?
Right.
Fashion disasters, automatic nurture. You just know that's a knowledge or a nurturer if they're a fashion disaster. And if it's really bad, you know it's a knowledge. Okay. Their background is going to be stacks of paper and a lot of books. A lot of books. What are they going to choose to talk about? Right? The most important question you can ask is why, right? I always want to know somebody's profession, and then I want to know why they went into that profession. Okay? Blueprints, police officers, teachers, nurses. Nurses are usually either blueprint or nurturers. And then I want to know why. I spent 20 years in the military as an officer, okay? High blueprint personality in general in the military.
Right.
The minute you ask me why, I'm going to tell you a story about losing my sister when I was in high school. And she was older, and I felt like I needed to do something so that my parents wouldn't worry about me. Now what personality are you thinking?
More nurture. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
See how the why shifts the rest of the story.
Yes.
So the why is important. So one of the easiest ways to recognize what personality, what values is somebody prioritizing right now is what are they talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if our relationship were blah, da, 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 and all of a sudden we go into crisis for whatever reason, and I'm talking about risk and danger and you know I've gone blueprint on you, and it's time to talk about systems and security and how do we make you feel safe again? What are the rules that are being broken? How do we get back in alignment with the rules, right?
Yeah.
If I'm high action and our relationship goes into crisis, I'm probably exploding everywhere, right? Like I'm letting it all out and I'm telling you all the things,
Everything.
right? And so join me there. If I'm a high action personality, join me in that energy. Because the minute you join me in that energy, I think, they get me. And both of us will start to back down, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard for blueprints and knowledges to do that. It's very hard. But I promise you, blueprints and knowledges, that if you will join them in their energy, they're going to feel seen and heard. What happens when our relationships go into crisis? The trust is broken, and we're positive you're not listening to us.
Right.
Right? So, how do we help them feel listened to? The nurturers, right? They're going to be very emotional, but they're going to try not to put their emotions on you. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Right?
Yep.
In crisis. If we're having a conversation and we're just meeting and I go into this discussion about my family and what did we all do over the weekend and the great plans we have for, right? Think about nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
Knowledge is, they just want to learn. So anytime you can give them new information or new data, they love that. So if somebody comes in and they're like, show me the data, you know they're knowledge.
Yeah.
If you walk into a party and there's somebody that's leaning up against a wall and it's obvious that they're watching, right? Because introverts will sometimes isolate themselves in a party. You're looking for the person who's leaning up against the wall and watching everything. The most fun is to go up next to them, lean against the wall, leave space because they don't want you that close to them, leave space, lean up against the wall with them and say, don't look at them, just say, what do you see?
Huh.
Because they see everything. They are some of the most astute observers out there. And they have the most fascinating stories. Well, I just watched over there, blah, blah, blah. Never would have seen it. Never would have seen it.
I'm going to ask my oldest son that question because he's got a lot of knowledge in him. And same thing, he'll come up with things and I'll be like, how did you ever notice that? I love that tip. I'm going to ask him that. I bet he's got some great stuff.
Parenting tips for knowledge children. Knowledge children can get very wrapped up in their thing. Knowledges will tend to pick a topic and go deep. They need our help to learn the social skills and to get out and do social things, right?
Oh, yes.
Knowledges can actually be very good athletes. When you explain to them how much better their body and their mind will work when they take care of it. They will usually go in for solitary. Like, if they think it's important to you, they'll go do a team sport. But something like swimming, like competitive swimming or running, where they have time, again, to process.
That makes sense.
And they can actually be very, very good athletes because they will keep track of their numbers and they will observe what things they're doing have what kind of effect on them. Like they do the research. They do the research. Right. So, any other questions?
I don't think so. It makes sense that when you go into crisis, that's even more so. It's even more important for you to go back into their original personality type because like that. My oldest son is definitely knowledge. My grandma was definitely blueprint. my mom's action, with me. It's like you can just see how, when things go wrong, what the problem is and why it gets so frustrating.
Because if you're being an action and your son is being a knowledge,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's a lot of energy for him to handle.
Yes.
The other thing I will tell you about knowledge personalities is that the last 20 years of experience tells us that the personality most likely to commit suicide is the knowledge.
Oh, I believe that.
They get inside their heads and they can't get out.
Yes.
Right? The nurturers have huge social structures. The blueprints are following the rules. Right? The actions having a lot of fun. But the knowledge can get inside their heads. No, any personality type can get into a deep enough depression. Right?
Right.
But we see a lot more knowledges doing that. And so it's important to help our knowledge friends and family get out of their head when they need that boost, and teach them how to get themselves out of their head.
I love that. Thank you for that, because you're right. There are we all know knowledges, and sometimes it's easier just to walk away and be like, I don't know, they're so lost somewhere. Bye. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's vitally important.
And it can be a simple just check in with them.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to be thinking really hard. What are you thinking about?
Right.
And if they're thinking about solving the problem that they've run into in their game, their computer, their engineering project, they're fine.
Right.
Right? But you'll be amazed at what comes out if that's not what they're thinking about.
Right.
They just need somebody to ask.
Right. So can you tell sometimes in people's writing what they are? Because again, Zoom world, but we're also in a very social media post right now. And some posts I can see, with all this fight is like, oh, I can see because somebody's saying, don't you just love somebody? Or this doesn't make sense, or they're posting articles. But are there any other tips for when it's the written word?
So we actually have an artificial intelligence. When somebody sends me an email, I will actually take that email and I will plug it into the artificial intelligence, and the artificial intelligence will actually tell me what personality it is. I can then type my response into it, and it will tell me if I'm matching the person. Yeah.
That's incredible.
It's an amazing tool. And it's about to get even better, because we're taking that artificial intelligence and we're making a Chrome extension so that when you're on a LinkedIn profile, you can click a button and it'll tell you what personality that person is.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
It is amazing. It is amazing. We do teach in our classes how to do this, but I will tell you that it's very hard to do it from writing, because all you have are the words.
Right.
We've talked about professions. We've talked about clothing. We've talked about what's in their house. We've talked about tone of voice. All you have are the words. It's a lot harder when it's just writing. One of the exercises we do is look at a Facebook profile, and can you tell me what personality code that person is? All 4 letters in order of importance, right?
Oh, wow.
So you can see it in my name on the screen. I'm a nurturing knowledge blueprint action.
Oh, I love that.
So everybody has all 4 letters. So we make everybody say all 4 letters all the time. But when you sit down and you look at a personality profile and you try to, well, is that what is the, right?
Right.
It's a lot harder to do. So I'm really excited. Our artificial intelligence is awesome. And I'm really excited for the Chrome extension. I can't wait for it to actually come out. I've had the chance to play with the beta version. It's so much fun.
That's incredible. Ah. Okay, so where can people, because I know most of the people watch this on the replay, where can people find you, find out about, this Chrome extension, find out about learning more, classes, all that good stuff?
So we have a website that's really easy to find. And if you've got your pens ready, everybody got their pens ready? It's Code Breaker Tech. It's Code Breaker Tech. CODEBREAKERTECH.com. Codebreakertech.com/Jen, Jen, Draper, Draper. And that's got all of the information on what's going on with our products and our services, and then the national events that are going on.
Nice. Because this is so important, obviously for business, but also for families and friends. And, you know, as you were talking, I would have the series of people pop into my head and I'd be like, oh, I pissed off that blueprint person right there when I did that. And I get it. And I didn't understand why. Or I can't seem to connect with my mom right now. And I don't know why, or I can't. So it makes so much sense.
I work a lot with businesses, with sales teams to help them improve their sales close rates. Like, I can't help you if you're not doing the work.
No.
You need a coach for that. And they're great ones. Like, start here,
right.
Phenomenal coach, right?
Right.
If you're not doing the work, you need a coach. If you're not getting the close rate, I can help with that. I also help with customer service numbers. So I get hired by like HVAC companies to come in and teach their technicians, because they either connect really well with the customer or not at all. High knowledge. A lot of the technicians in those industries are high knowledge. Who knew?
Right.
Who knew?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you so much.
Lora, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to share your stuff with all of my people. Your information is so fascinating. And I love how real and authentic you are in your Facebook posts. And like I said, that when we flaunt post that you did, I just, holy cow, holy cow, that's amazing. And you have been so generous with your community.
Oh, so thank you so much. And, you know, likewise, I can't wait to share this with people, because everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know it. And if you want to be successful at work and have a higher close rate or better customer service or relationships or whatever, ta-da. So thank you. I look forward to way more communication with you. And Holly, do you have any questions?
You know, I've been sitting here coloring, which is why I was on mute and not letting you see me, because I was having the best time coloring, and I was coloring a yellow, bright yellow sunshine, not sunflower. But I was like, wow, nurturer, keep coloring. So I just appreciate it. I took copious notes while you were speaking. So I just thank you, Laura, for letting me know this was happening. And thank you, Jennifer, for just letting me listen.
Happy to help. Glad to be of service.
Yay. Well, thank you, ladies, both. I hope you each have a beautiful rest of the night and rest of the week. And I can't wait to connect with both of you later.
Thanks,
thank you.
Laura.
You're welcome. Bye, ladies.